Yeah, everybody, we're talking today about MLA paper formatting. MLA, of course, stands for the Modern Language Association. It's, people like me, English teachers, but from all over the world, people who study world languages and literatures. And, we all get together every year in a big conference, and the parties, let me tell you. Yes, we are talking about MLA paper formatting because you want to make a good impression. And now I'm not talking about the Frank Caliendo kind of impression where what? What do you mean you've never heard of Frank Caliendo? He was on Mad TV? Like, he lives in Milwaukee. But you want your teacher to be able to read your paper easily, identify easily whose paper it is. That's the kind of good impression I'm talking about. Well, the MLA, of course, is obviously much bigger than me. MLA paper style is something that I expect as a teacher. So if you are one of my students, I really want you to pay attention because this is kind of how I would like your writing to look. The warning, you know what? I'm going to put up a hashtag warning because we haven't had one of those in a while. They're right there, hashtag warning. If you are just some rando who stopped by, you want to double check with your actual teacher, the teacher that you have, that the style I'm about to give you and talk about, the format that I'm about to propose here, you want to make sure that it is right for your teacher. Now, I know a lot of teachers don't particularly care as long as they can read it and they know whose it is. But I want you, as not my student, to be careful. Let me get out of the way that if you are handwriting your papers, obviously the font that you choose doesn't matter as long as your handwriting is legible. But if you are typing, the font you use absolutely does matter. For many years, MLA demanded that everybody write in the font Times New Roman because it is a clear, it is readable, it's what's called a serif font. And there's a whole history behind Times New Roman and how the Times of London had it invented to save ink. You don't need to know that whole story. I'll link to it below because it's interesting. But you definitely, if you are typing and you're using a serif font, you want something very basic like Georgia or Cambria. Times New Roman works. My personal favorite serif font is Palatino, but you do not need to use that just to suck up to me. If you're not impressed by any of those serif fonts, you can use a sans serif font like Arial or Helvetica or even, Steve Jobs, forgive me, Calibri, which is Microsoft's default sans serif font. My personal favorite sans serif font right now is Tahoma. I think that when I'm making a worksheet or some fancy graphics, it really works well in combination. You don't use different fonts in combination. You don't mix your serifs and your sans serifs, or even the same kind, two serifs. You don't do that. When you're writing a paper, you are just like, you want one font, you want that one font all the way through, and it's fine. Two fonts you should never use. One, never use Comic Sans, okay? That completely ruins whatever professional or, serious academic impression you're trying to make. And never anything all scripty or handwriting-y or fancy or anything like that. Those are just plain hard to read, and you may think that it makes you look more important or more academic if you've got something fancy that your words are in, but really plain. The font size needs to be 12. Now, a lot of times kids will bump it to 14 or 16 because they think, I'm supposed to be writing a lot and I am lazy. Don't, okay? I know. The default on Google Docs and Microsoft Word is 11 point, which is mostly it's designed to save paper and ink when you are printing. It's an environmental thing. If you're submitting electronically, there's no reason not to use a 12 point. And don't even go above a 12 point if you're thinking about things like your title or section headers or your name. Your name has a specific place where it is supposed to go, and we'll talk about that in a second, but it doesn't need to be any bigger. Margins. Microsoft Word and Google Docs both default, I believe at this point, to 1-inch margins. I tend to use 3/4 or 0.75 margins when I'm printing things. That's how I save paper and ink when I print. I can still use a 12-point font, but smaller margins. When you are printing or submitting electronically, 1-inch margins, absolutely fine. That is the MLA default. And you should double space. It's really, I mean, it's a simple thing to do. And I want to be clear. I think it's a mistake students make less now. But when I first started teaching and we were first using these computers and they were the newfangled technology, I would say double space, and kids would put 2 spaces in between every single word, and that's what they thought double spacing was. And it's about the lines. And here's where, if anything that I say goes against something your teacher has told you, it's going to be this one. At the top of your paper, and you can see a sample right there, at the top of your paper on the left-hand side, not the right side, the left-hand side, you're going to start with your name. That's where you are going to put your name. A lot of teachers want it to go on the right because you can flip through a stack of papers and, you know, see more easily who's turned what in or find the one that you're looking for. But MLA style demands top left. So that's where it goes. Now again, this is where you want to double check with your teacher, if your teacher is not me, whether they want it on the right or the left. A lot of them are going to say, I don't care. But left is absolutely appropriate for MLA style. Speaking of your name, you want to write your full name. It doesn't matter how unique or interesting you think your name is, or whether or not you think you're the only one in the class with a particular combination of first name, last name that you have, or you know, that your name is just so awesome that you can go by one name like Madonna or whatever. You need both names. And again, it's because it makes it easier for your teacher, because you may not be aware of, like, maybe I have a Madonna in third hour as well as in second hour, okay? So you just, whatever, however fancy you think your name is, Chester, Copperpot, or whatever, just please, first name, last name. If you're in college, the line under that would be your professor's name. And there's a lot of reasons for that, but since you're in high school, you can probably leave that out. I don't need to see my name in print. That's what this whole fancy YouTube thing is for. That's how I get all of the recognition that I need. But then directly under that is going to be the class and the hour. For me personally, if you don't write English 10 second hour and just put second hour or hour 2, I'm okay with that. The English 10 is a little bit helpful if I'm trying to distinguish it from, you know, a stack of papers that came in the same day from one of my other classes. And then finally, the last line of your header, and again, top left, the last line of that should be the date. An MLA style wants you to put the day first, European style, and then spell out the month. Even if that month is October, February, okay, no matter how long you think that is, spell out the month and then the year. And because you're doing it European style, you don't need any commas. You can just, day, month spelled out, and 4-digit year. All right, we're through with most of the hard part. There are just a couple of things left. If you are going to give your paper a title, and not everything needs a title, and honestly, when I say make sure your paper has a title, the thing that I usually get is either just a repeat of the name of the thing that they were writing about. Like, you know, if I assign you to write a paper on Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven, you know, the title that the students are going to put would be The Raven. Sometimes they get really creative and it's My Analysis of The Raven. So, you know, I'm not going to hold you to having a title. But if you have a title, it's going to be centered. You don't have to skip any extra lines between the header and then the title. Just center the title. And please use the button that centers your text. Don't try to tab it and space it or whatever. Your eye is not that good. Use the button. And then when you are ready to type, take it off of center. Move it back over to what we call left justified. That's where, you know, the text lines up on the left-hand side of your page. Because a lot of students, they'll center their title and then they'll forget to unclick the button and then their whole paper is centered and just, I don't know how they don't notice that before they turn it in. Anyway, the beginning of every paragraph, tab, just one tab. It should tab over a half of an inch. It's preset, it's automatic, and then you start writing, and then you get to the next paragraph. You don't have to skip any lines, but you do have to tab, and that's basically what your page is going to look like, with one more detail, and that is a header. The header, the actual header, it goes up in that extra space that Word or Google Docs gives you above where you can normally type. That's called the header. The header is where you are going to be putting things on the right at the top. Again, it should be pretty easy for you. You can click the right justify button in order to do this. You just put your last name and you use the automatic page number function that's built into your word processing program, so that your first page says your last name and the number 1, like Copperpot 1, as you can see in the fancy graphic. Then it automatically makes your second page 2 and your third page 3 and so on. And that's pretty much it. Now again, a lot of this, Google Docs, Microsoft Word, they make really easy for you. There are buttons to do almost everything for you. And I'm putting a link down below in the description as well to a couple of different places where they talk about MLA paper formatting, just in case you have more questions. I'm also going to put a downloadable printable PDF of the paper that you've been looking at, the sample one that I did, that one right there. So you can print that out for yourself if you want. You laminate it, put it in your binder, put it in your locker, keep it for the rest of your life, whatever it is that you want to do with it. But anyway, that's MLA paper formatting. I'll see you for the next one.